I know now commercials are just insane.
Yeah.
Did you ever produce a commercial?
Yeah, I've directed lots.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
It's insane because you are not only talking to the actors and the crew, you're answering to the clients and the production company, and everyone's got different notes.
And then the pandemic happened, and this new technology of Zoom
Oh yeah,
happened.
Meanwhile,
And-
Skype is like, how did we
Yeah,
drop the
Skype's
ball?
like
They really did
like
talk
you
about
had 20 years to be ready for this
Yeah.
one moment. But the thing that happened is when you're directing, there's an iPad right beside your monitor. And on that iPad is every single client, every single person from the agency. Like it's like pages of thumbnails of people who all need to like weigh in,
Get there too
you
soon.
know?
Yeah.
And it's like some are like legitimately, giving opinions. Others are wanting to look like they're being
Yep.
involved, so they feel like they need
They have to
say
put their hand
something.
up to be like, don't fire me. I don't like their shirt.
Exactly,
for the
this
sake
and
of
that.
speaking.
So we sit there, and you've been in this. Have you ever been in a situation, or you're an actor too? Have you guys all ever been in a situation where you're like standing there with like the director and the wardrobe person, and they're like put you in 1,000 different shades of the same shirt? They're like, maybe a little darker blue, or maybe a little lighter blue, maybe it's like, and then multiply that by every single decision that happens, and you're really just like sitting there trying to be a filter for all of this stuff.
75 voices.
And you as the director, like, at what point am I going to like influence anything here? Because really it's just like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, change the shirt.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're really like just a conduit for that brand or the marketing agency.
It's really difficult.
It's probably not so fulfilling.
Yeah, and the lead up, I mean, I don't need to talk about commercials forever, but like the lead up, there's all of this work that's like your production company like pitches you as a director to the client. So in order to do that, you have to like come up with some kind of treatment. Like, this is how I'm approaching this commercial, and this is how I see it, and this is what the casting could be. Like a lot of work building this big deck, finding visuals and screens, all this stuff. And you give this and you pitch it to the agency, you walk them through it. This is how I see it. This is how I see it. And it's like it's like an audition for a director. And then they finally choose you, hopefully. And they're like, okay, you're hired. And then it's like, there's just like a thing that comes down, and it's like everything that you've just gone through and won the job with gets thrown out the door, and you're like making something else. And it's like, well, why did we first go through that whole process? And two, if you didn't want everything that I was pitching, then like,
It's
like,
funny
what are we doing
hearing
here?
this
Yeah.
too. Like a lot of people know the struggle of an actor having to audition and all these things, but they don't see that the director is also like working their butt off to try and get that job too, like showing your version of this ad.
Yeah, and it's like, and just like auditioning, in the pitching process, you're not being compensated for any of that work that you're doing. Same thing with music videos, where you're like, you are asked for a treatment, you're not guaranteed the job, you're competing against 3 or 5 or 10 other directors, and you do weeks of work trying to like win the job, and sometimes you don't get the job, and you've just spent like all that time and all that creative output. That's why commercials are really difficult for like trying to do a lot of them, because it's like the same amount of creative output as like a TV show or a movie. Maybe it's not like 25 days of shooting, but it's like it's the same amount of you have to
Back-end
write, and you have
hard
to
work,
think, and you
yeah.
have to have motivation, and why is this influencing that, and why did we choose these colors of the set over that color? It's like a lot.
It's so much more pressurized too, because say you have like 2 days to shoot like a $5 million commercial versus like a month, 2 months to shoot a $5 million feature.
Yeah.
Every one of your decisions is like completely under a magnifying glass. Each line, if there's 3 lines from the actors, each line is done 600 times each, to the point where no one understands the language they're using. Each grip is like working their tail off, moving something to make it look like something somewhere else, and like it's truly unbelievable how much pressure those like 2 days are for that much money, because they have the money, they need to spend it.
Yep.
And they're going to get people who take it seriously.
Yeah.
And like kowtow to the boss.
And for all the creatives on set, whether it's like the production designers or the actors or the directors or whoever, you also don't get to use multiple days to build something with. Like it must be like a day player on a TV series where you're coming in and you need to like make a impression in that one day with those 3 lines. That's got to be the hardest acting to do.
Dude, it's the worst to do, the hardest to do,
Yeah.
the hardest auditions to do.
Yeah.
Give me 6 pages of memorized
Yeah.
dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that 10 times over to
there's
one line.
arcs
Way
and
harder.
You can build trust and you can build performance and you have something to lean on. When it's just like, watch out, radioactive man. You're like, oh,
As you
shit.
probably know too from seeing tons of audition tapes, like if someone's line is "Here's the files,"
Yeah.
Christian can't show he's a better actor than me
Yeah.
in that line.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, do we like that guy's look, or it
Yeah,
sounded
yeah.
fine enough. Versus in 6 pages, he can show he's a better actor than me.
Yeah. That's why when I audition, the most important thing that I consider is not the performance that they're giving in that moment. I'm not looking at their performance and saying that's what I want to get on set. Because like none of what's going on in an audition is setting that actor up for the best performance of that scene. Right? You're in some dumb room somewhere.
You're alone. There's not
you're
another.
alone.
You're not
It's
listening to anyone.
There's no like your reader off camera is not like it's like not, so to think that this like I'm trying to find the performance of that scene in that moment of the audition is not my approach. I don't know how other directors do it.
Well,
It's great that you just said that because everybody that just heard that who's like maybe new to the scene or not new to the scene, been acting for a while. I wish somebody told me that years ago.
Well, I can't speak for like there may be like, especially in commercials, it may be a little bit more of that. But my thinking is, can they act like generally like if I give some suggestions or notes or ideas, are they changing things? Can they do it this way versus that way? Because then I know when I'm on set, we can just fucking play.
That's
and
the
like
thing.
and there's something there. Because like if it's just like can they do this line this one perfect specific way is not helpful to me. It's not, and I'd rather find a person who's like, oh, you can change, you can.
You kind of almost want to see the full script within that 2-minute scene versus them just being really good at this.
And
breakup
it's
scene.
it's not even really range either. It's like I mean range.
you don't want to
range
think-
is good, of course, but it's more like. It's like, do they have the skills to
Adapt.
synthesize what we're trying to do and think about and react in that way? Because that's what's important.
I just watched a bunch of, to go to your point, I just watched a bunch of auditions for this film, and I helped kind of chat about the decisions. And exactly what you're saying, where like some of the people who got parts, it's not like they were the best actor. They did like 2 takes or something, and one take was something.
Yeah.
And the other take was completely different.
Yeah.
And it was the other take, the last choice that they made showed that they could get to a different place on the day.
Did you
Right.
guys request that they do 2 takes?
No.
That's nice. That's cool to hear.
They
I would
just
never...
did 2 takes, especially if it's a shorter scene.
Yeah.
They just did 2 takes
Just to
of it
show,
and
hey,
show
shoot.
like, this is how I think I could play it, or I could play it this way.
Yeah.
That for me was a groundbreaking thing when I was first starting, especially like you said, wanting it so badly.
Yeah.
I used to be like, you get the character and you're like, oh, I can do this. I know what they want, and you're
Yeah.
trying so hard to like do it right,
Fit into a...
fit yourself into
Yeah.
this. Versus
Yeah.
now, at least, I try, and maybe it's from what we talked about of just like not giving a shit as much or knowing so much of it's out of your control or just being more relaxed as like a performer.
Yeah.
I now try to show like, hey, this is how Ian would play this role. If
Totally.
you don't hire me for it, it's not that you're better. I was a shit
Yeah.
actor. It's like, this is my version of this guy. This is what I would have done.
We saw some actors just make a choice, and the amount of like consideration they got, the choice was so wrong.
Yeah.
But because they made a choice versus other actors who were just keeping it very simple and didn't make a choice, they were at the top of the list.
Yeah.
This wrong choice.
Wow, I love
Because
hearing
they
that.
were so compelling.
Yeah.
It's like they killed that. So we got to bring them back.
Exactly.
We got to see them again, you know?
And when you think about it, like we were talking about stoicism earlier, but it's kind of like, what are the things that you can control if you're an actor auditioning? Like, what are the things you can't control? Because you can't change who you are. You can't change how you generally look, like you grow a beard or whatever. But like you're still that person. You can't control that. So you can't control like the stereotype that a casting director or somebody might be looking for. Like you either are or you're not. And that's not something you can change. But you can change your performance.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that you have the most input on. And so if you're trying to like what do they want from me, as opposed to just this is what I am. That's gonna be more meaningful.
And there's a detachment from that too, because then you're like, oh, did I get it right? It's like, no, I just showed this is cool. This is what I would have brought to it.
Because you're cast. I agree. You're cast already. Make a bold choice. They wanted you regardless.
Yeah.
And don't you find, like, being on the other end of that, like when Blake a few years ago we were casting a show, it was really cool to see, like,
I was so close to getting that part.
I'm so sorry.
Let's hash that out. That'd be amazing. Well, we can talk about that.
No, I don't care.
We talked about it at the screening. It was very nice of you to even come as well. You and I talked about that.
Oh, you're my friends. It was such a cool. It was so good.
But I was really happy to be able to apologize in that moment.
No apology needed.
I think there was.
And like you said,
but I get it. I mean, I get it. There's no
those were
hard
things you
feelings.
couldn't control. Exactly what he just said about controlling the things you can control. You're a great actor. You're hilarious.
Totally.
You could have crushed that part. It's just like that. Just the character went to somebody else.
That's essentially the story. A character went to someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's it. Because they're different.
And they're just different.
Yeah.
And it's arguable whether it was the right choice in the end, anyways.
You never know. And
you never will know, right? Because like that's the hard part about like the creative. You try to make art the way you want to make it, and you're like, did I make the right choice?
Yeah.
And we'll always question that. But I feel like ultimately we're past the point of as professionals and friends. It's like if we're friends, that's gonna come.
And
first.
that's
especially if no one's a piece
But
of shit.
I think that was that. I mean, we don't have to like hash it out, but I think that was actually the thing that stung. If like the friendship didn't come first in a way, like the respect of like giving a call, saying like this is what went down. It wasn't about the part. It was about like the way that it happened, right?
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. You've been working together. Like I've never been in your sketches. You've had series and stuff. I've never been in that. Same like Blake directs a lot. He's done features. He doesn't always cast me. It's like the problem with being friends and artists. It's like you're not always gonna hook up your friends.
He doesn't always cast you. He always casts me.
Yeah.
He puts you in everything.
Oh, he puts you in everything.
Well, it's the.
Well, not since you buy a tattoo though.
I have two companies, and one of them makes adult films, and the other.
Oh, I have seen your tattoo somewhere. but that to bring it back a bit, at the auditions, I realized, and I wish, like you said, Darcy, I wish someone had told Ian the actor this 15 years ago. Every person that came in, we wanted them to be the person so bad.
Yeah.
We're rooting for them.
You really are.
You're really looking for that.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's not trying out to make the basketball team.
No.
Which actors think it is. Like, I hope they like me. I hope I'm good. It's like they fucking want you to make their lives easier.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They like you when they brought you into the room.
Yeah, they want you to be the person. They're not doing you a favor.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But it is like like the analogy is like the pining for the girl in high school, where you're like, the more you're chasing,
you can't relate. You just
I just got.
You did too well.
I got him.
Oh, you don't know. You don't know what this is.
Yeah, I
Like.
just got him.
He's got a kid.
I got a kid.
He's had sex.
No, I never got him.
But it is the thing, right? Like if you're chasing, then you're not attractive. And I think it's like that with anything, and acting is the same thing. If you're chasing the audition, if you're chasing the part, the desperation of it, I think that I'm gonna be the thing that I think that they want.
Yeah.
Then it loses all of the authenticity of it. It's just like be whatever you're gonna be yourself. And I know that's so cliche to say, but I think that that's really true.
Or Lita, lighten up.
Whoa!
I know,
but it's lighten up. Get down, but yeah. No, but
that's the foundation of comedy is the callback.
Is the callback, and that's for those of you at home.
There's been sorry.
No, I was just gonna say David Rotenberg, a teacher in Toronto, an acting teacher in Toronto. There's no need to name drop. He's just a guy I once took classes from. Nice to me.
Use promo code Christian Smith.
Use promo code if you want. Save $6,000 on a first day acting class. All acting classes.
That's only 10% off.
That's only 10% off. Yeah. It's 600,000 every time.
Every time.
Right. Yeah. So this guy, he said something so interesting that I feel like to this day I still agree with. He's like, as an actor, you can't show up jaded. You can't show up pissed off or like entitled, because people like that don't work. People see that energy, they get it off of you. And then like the person who's the same, just as good, and is just showing up having a nice normal day, it's such a more of an attractive quality to be, like you said, just be yourself. You don't have to force anything. If it's not you, it's not you.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like a lot with life though in general. Like don't go chasing the girl. Like when you don't, it's
just
not,
let it go and like
or like you have to come to terms with like either she likes you or she doesn't like you.
That's way better.
And the only thing that you can control is like how you behave in that situation.
Which is why I think
just being yourself, not being like, oh, like if I do this, she's gonna like me. If I remove my tattoo, she's gonna.
Did it work?
Or get a tattoo.
She hasn't called me since.
Like, don't be desperate, Christian. You told me that once you found a director was gonna be in the show, you prepared a monologue to do.
Yeah. So I don't know which one of them is the director here, so I'm just gonna perform a couple lines from it. Are you guys okay with an accent?
I prefer it.
Oh,